Well, as always, it is a joy and an honor to get to welcome you. To our weekend services. I welcome you, those of you who are here and those of you who are on any of our campuses, and to our online community. If you want to know what's going on, we are on Thursday night. We are recording this because I will be traveling this weekend, and so this is going to be a little bit different, but this is our Thursday night service, and there we go. For all the rest of you, just to remind you, we have Thursday night services, so if that works for you, make it a point to be there. So anyway, let's do this. Let's open up our Bibles to Acts chapter 12, and we're going to get there in just a little bit. While you're doing that, I want to tell you about something. Mark Batterson, in his book, Prayer Circles, tells of a legend that is a part of kind of the history of Israel. And I want to just remind you of this if you've ever heard this story. It goes all the way back to the 1st century BC. And if you can go back to the time of Jesus, God had been silent for 400 years. From the ending of the book of Malachi to like John the Baptist hitting the scene in the Gospels, they felt like God just had shut up. He wasn't talking. And it was a really, really dark, difficult time. No one could hear him because it seemed like he wasn't saying anything. And so it was just a difficult period. Now, compounding the difficulty was the fact that there was a drought in Israel, and the drought was very, very severe. So this story is about a man that lived outside of Jerusalem. And he felt like, well, we can't hear God. I'm confident that God could hear us. And his name was a man named Honi. So one particular day, he took his 6-foot staff and he stood in the middle and he drew a circle around him. And he stood inside the circle, looked up to heaven and prayed these words: Lord of the universe, I swear before your great name that I will not move from this circle until you have shown mercy upon your children. Not a hint of doubt, an extreme sense of confidence, meek, but he was very sure that God would come through. Well, as he prayed, it happened. It began to sprinkle. And people were like starting to go crazy because it hadn't rained, but it began to rain. And he looked up. He actually was kneeling and he prayed a second prayer, and I want to read to you what was recorded that he said in his prayer. He said, "Not for such rain have I prayed, but for the rain that will fill cisterns, pits, and caverns." God, this was not what I was praying for, this little sprinkle. And then as the legend goes, the skies opened up and it was a deluge. They were talking about the rain was the size of eggs. They said it was the most incredible. And in fact, it rained so much that people started racing up to where the temple was just to be out of the flooding. And it was, again, quite the scene, if you can imagine. But Honi didn't leave. He stayed right where he was. He stayed in that circle. And then he prayed a third prayer. And he said this: "Not for such rain have I prayed, but for rain of your favor, blessing, and graciousness." Well, as you can imagine, that had a huge impact on the people of Israel. It had been difficult to believe the day before. It was difficult not to believe the day after. And the circle that he drew became kind of a sacred symbol to the Jewish people about the faithfulness of God, that he hears us, all right? Now, the question that I want to ask you after telling you that story is, when it comes to prayer, how confident are you? I mean, you're pretty certain that God's going to come through, or you kind of sketchy on the whole thing? We often pray the kind of prayers that I used to ask girls out with. Let me explain. When I was in junior high school is what I'm talking about. I'm talking about junior high school, all right, just so we're clear. Often when you're in junior high school, you're not like particularly sure you should, but you feel like you're being pressured into, like, I should ask somebody out or to a dance or, whatever. And You're confident in your heart. There's just not a chance in the world she's going to say yes. All right, now again, that might not have been your story, but that was certainly my story. But in the process of that, you feel like, I need to do this. It's just what I need to do. And then truthfully, you don't even know what you would do if she said yes, because you're so sure she's not going to, you just don't even get there. So you put the request out there like something like this. There isn't a chance in the world a girl like you would go on a date with a guy like me. Am I right? And of course, what do you get back? Yes, you are correct. There is not a chance in the world that's going to happen. So we're in a current series, as you know. We got a couple more weeks, and it's been rich for us as a church. The series is simply called Love Beyond. It's the mantra of our church, if you would. It's our just cause. It's why we exist. What are you trying to accomplish? We're trying to teach church how to love beyond the lines and the limits, the barriers, the fences, the boundaries, all of that. So today what I want to talk to you about, today's message is love beyond by believing in prayer. Now that might not seem like it goes together, but I want to explain to you that if you don't really believe in prayer, you're probably really not going to be too capable at loving beyond the lines and limits. Because when you get beyond the comfort, it gets scary, and it's the prayer of your soul that'll sustain you. The big idea for this entire message, let me just give it to you right now. Prayer is the key that opens the door to the blessings of God. Prayer is the key that opens the door to the blessings of God. I want to share with you some things Jesus said about prayer. You're going to have to decide whether he knew what he was talking about and whether you believe he was telling you the truth. But let me just remind you, I'll give you 4 passages. In Matthew 21:22, Jesus said, if you believe, you will receive whatever you ask for in prayer. Mark 11:24, he said, therefore I tell you, whatever you ask for in prayer, believe that you have received it, and it will be yours. In John 16:23 and 24, Jesus said, in that day, you will no longer ask me anything. Very truly, I tell you, my Father will give you whatever you ask in my name. Until now, you have not asked for anything in my name. And ask, and you will receive, and your joy will be complete. One more. Luke 17:6, Jesus replied, if you have faith as small as a mustard seed, you can say to this mulberry tree, be uprooted and planted in the sea, and it will obey you. Those are incredible verses, but they leave most of us feeling a little bit of anxiety. We want to believe these verses. Wouldn't it be great if these verses were true? Wouldn't it be great if we believed that prayer actually worked? From many people's experience, they would say something like this: I tried it once and I didn't get what I wanted. I prayed for this, I prayed for that. We're very prone to often forget what did happen as a result of prayer, and we're very prone to never forget what didn't happen. So we get this feeling like, you know what, prayer's kind of like, I get it, I'm supposed to. When it works out, we just go, the circumstances were it's just like, and God's going, seriously, that's what you think just happened. It was just circumstance. But when it doesn't work out, we're sure that God didn't do what he promised. Maybe our problem is that we often treat God like our very own little vending machine, a genie in a bottle, if you would. We think that our wish should be his command, and we're frustrated when the product we demanded from God didn't get delivered. And it's not God honoring this attitude, but often we get frustrated because we feel like, well, I pray, man, he never comes through. All of this reminds me of something from my long distant past. When I got started in ministry years and years ago, there was a recording artist. His name was Larry Bryant, and he had a very popular song that I'm sure you've never heard. And I have the words to that song, and I'm going to bless you right now by reading it and not singing it. So yes, you're welcome. I love this song. Again, it's called Shopping List. Lord, I need to talk to you. There's so much on my heart. So many burdens makes it hard to know just where to start. Thank you for your family, your mercy, and your love. Now on to more important things. I'll give my magic lamp a rub. Give me this, I want that. Bless me, Lord, I pray. Grant me what I think I need to make it through the day. Make me wealthy, keep me healthy, fill in what I missed on my never-ending shopping list. Lord, you've been so good to me. How could I ask for more? But since you said to ask, I will, because what else is prayer for? The cattle on 1,000 hills, they all belong to you. I don't need any cows right now, but something else might do. Give me this, I want that. Bless me, Lord, I pray. Grant me what I think I need to make it through the day. Make me wealthy, keep me healthy, fill in what I missed on my never-ending shopping list. Well, I made my list and I checked it twice. If I got it all, it would sure be nice. I want a nice white smile on a perfect face, a perfect hair that will stay in place. I want a smaller nose and a single chin and a figure like a perfect 10. And a mom that never yells or screams, and hips that fit into designer jeans, and a tennis court and a heated pool. I could use them, Lord, as a witnessing tool. And a color TV and a VCR and Jesus plates on a brand new car. Give me this, I want that. Bless me, Lord, I pray. Grant me what I think I need to make it through the day. Make me wealthy, keep me healthy, fill in what I miss on my never-ending shopping list. And then he concludes, Lord, please bless my shopping list, my never-ending shopping list. Thank you, Lord, and amen. We're disappointed to discover that God sees right through that he sees what we're doing and how we are approaching him and why we tend to believe that he's our little genie in a bottle. Rather than suspect that the problem of unanswered prayer could be our problem, we are so quick to blame God. It's not our issue, it's his issue. It's not that we are doing something wrong, it's that he's doing something. It's not that we're not coming through, it's he's not coming through, and that's what we tend to do. I want to remind you of some very powerful words that are found in the book of James, and we studied James not long ago. You might remember these words. You do not have because you do not ask God. When you ask, you do not receive because you ask with wrong motives, that you may spend what you get on your pleasures. Wow, that's pretty convicting. Let me just make that come home to be really personal. Search your heart right now, and again, this is between you and God, not between you and me. Search your heart. When you pray, what percentage of your prayers are about you? What percentage of your prayers are that you would be given something from God, that you would be blessed? And let me just say this a little bit further. When I say what percent of your prayers are about you, let me expand that to say you and yours. God, I want to pray for my kids. I want to pray for my spouse. I want to pray for... But the truth of the matter is that when you look at the circle's really small. It includes you and yours, and that's all that's in the circle, as if that's all you should be caring about and concerned about. Nonetheless, we're reduced to believing that prayer is a great concept. It just doesn't really work. So sadly, many of us have become practical atheists. We're not atheists. We believe in God, but we don't really believe in God. We believe in God in theory. And my best intention is to believe that God is all that he says he is, but in my heart, I don't believe that. We might hear the echo in our head. But what if prayer did work? What if God was actually moved by words you said to him? That he actually cares about your life and what happens. What if God has a way of esteeming what you're asking for with a whole different set of values than you might present, meaning he sees through and he knows what really would be good for you and what really would be bad for you. You might remember the old Garth Brooks song, Thank God for Unanswered Prayers. If you remember the song, you remember the point. The point is that he saw an old girlfriend that he had prayed so diligently that God would work out. He'd long been married to another woman, and he saw the woman that he used to pray to God that it would work out. And then he wrote that song, Praise God for Unanswered Prayers, because God, you've been so much better to me than I would have ever been to myself, because you saw what I didn't see. We just don't tend to think this way. What if God really answered prayer? What could happen if we would pray prayers that were full of faith? I just want to remind you of this big idea. Prayer is a key that opens the door to the blessings of God. We don't pray, we have no key. And if we have no key, the door won't open. But if we get this right, incredible things could happen, which brings us to the book of Acts. This little section of the book of Acts is honestly one of my favorite passages in all the Bible. It's probably like children, you're not supposed to have favorites, but you do. You just go, man, I really like this passage. I really like this passage. I find so much encouragement, and this passage, it always gives me a chuckle, makes me laugh. Usually, honestly, I laugh out loud because I just think it's a funny passage. But it's so instructive and it's so inspiring, and I just want to have you look at it with me right now. So we're going to be in Acts chapter 12. It's only about 17 verses. It won't take long. There's not a lot of commentary. It's kind of like last week's message. It doesn't take a whole lot. You just have to read the narrative and you think about it. And if you read the narrative and you think about it, it's kind of pretty obvious what's going on. So let's do this together. Acts chapter 12, verses 1. I'll just take it in segments like I do, and we'll just make sure we're tracking. Okay, so it was about this time that King Herod, now just remind you of last week. So Peter's down doing the thing with Cornelius in Caesarea, and in 11 he's called out by the church. Well, it turns kind of negative pretty quickly. It was about this time that King Herod arrested some who belonged to the church, intending to persecute them. He had James, the brother of John, put to death with a sword. That is a very sobering verse. Peter, James, and John were the three inner circle of Jesus. So we just found out that James, the brother of John, was put to death. When he saw that this met with approval among the Jews, he proceeded to seize Peter also. This happened during the festival of unleavened bread, and after arresting him, he put him in prison, handing him over to be guarded by 4 squads of 4 soldiers each. Herod intended to bring him out for public trial after the Passover. So this is a horrible turn of events. It's not like Herod's playing politics here. It's not like Herod's playing, chicken with the church. He killed James. He is going after Peter. And he has most likely every intention that Herod has every intention that Peter will in fact also be executed. But we just have to wait for the Passover, all right? Acts 12:5, I want to show you because you want to stare at this for just a moment to understand it. Acts 12:5 says, so Peter was kept in prison, but the church was earnestly praying to God for him. What does a church that's earnestly praying for something look like? How does the church earnestly pray for something? How does the church earnestly pray for someone? If you pick the story back up in verse 6, go down to 10, it says, the night before Herod was to bring him to trial, Peter was sleeping between 2 soldiers. Pause, hard stop. If you knew that James has just been executed, Herod's got his clutches on you, you're next, would you be sleeping? Could you go to sleep, or would your heart be filled with so much terror? Could you actually turn over that concern to God where you're going, you know what, he's got this. I don't need to stay up all night worrying about it. Anyways, sleeping between 2 soldiers, bound with 2 chains and sentry stood guard at the entrance. 16 soldiers seems like a bit of overkill. Amen? It's just Peter. But they're not going to take any chances. Now suddenly an angel of the Lord appeared and a light shone in the cell. And so all of a sudden an angel and whoo, I swear I can just see all this. He struck Peter on the side and woke him up. This gets funny to me. I don't know if the angel had a staff and he's like poking him. Like, hey, come on. I don't know. It just seems funny to me. He struck Peter on the side, woke him up. Quick, he said, get up. And the chains fell off Peter's wrists. Whoa. Then the angel said to him, put on your clothes and sandals. And Peter did so. Wrap your cloak around you and follow me. This is funny to me. He's dressing Peter. It's like Peter doesn't have the common sense to go, hey, are we going somewhere? Let's go. I should probably get dressed. So the angel's kind of coaching him there. So Peter did so. Wrap your cloak around and follow me. And the angel told him. So Peter followed him out of the prison. But he had no idea that what the angel was doing was really happening. He thought he was seeing a vision. Have any memories of visions with Peter? Remember last week? Oh, this is like that sheet thing, huh? Guys, you're trying to show me something. You're trying to teach me something. You're trying to open my eyes to something. They passed the first and the second guards, and it was just without comment. These are not the prisoners you're looking for. They just passed them. They were like playing chess. What were they doing? I don't know. They just without comment, they just passed them. They passed the first and second guards, came to the iron gate leading to the city. Oh no. It opened for them by itself. This is awesome. This is awesome. They're walking by the guards, and then all of a sudden Peter's going, oh, there, okay, that one. That iron gate, that's going to be, that'll kill this idea. I'm telling you, it just blows my mind. And it opened by itself. They went through it. When they had walked the length of one street, suddenly the angel left him. Now look at verse 11. Again, I'm going to show it to you on the screen because it's so good. Then Peter came to himself and said, now I know without a doubt that the Lord has sent his angel and rescued me from Herod's clutches and from everything the Jewish people were hoping would happen. When he came to himself, he's like going, okay, wait. I am fully awake. I am not dreaming this. This is not a vision. This is actually happening. Somehow, some way, I am out of that prison. Now, what am I going to do? Acts 12:12 says, and I love this word, when this had dawned on him, that's a great word. Like when the light the sunlight comes up in a dawn, you just go, oh, I see now. This is really happening. When this had dawned on him, he went to the house of Mary, the mother of John, also called Mark, where many people had gathered and were praying. Peter knocked at the outer entrance, and a servant named Rhoda. Remember the old show Rhoda? I kind of think of her whenever I read this. I think of Rhoda. So Peter knocked, and a servant named Rhoda came to answer the door. When she recognized Peter's voice, she was so overjoyed, she ran back without opening it and exclaimed, Peter is at the door. She ran back without opening it. Peter's on the other side of the door. He's in prison, but he got out, but he's outside the door. He's knocking on the door, and Rhoda doesn't open the door. She goes, it's Peter! She goes running inside to where the church is gathered, and they are praying. And she goes, Peter's at the door. Now let me show you the next verse. Acts 12:15. You're out of your mind, they told her. When she kept insisting that it was so, they said, well, it must be his angel. Hey, lady, you're crazy. Peter is in prison. We are in here praying for Peter to get out of prison. Would you please quit interrupting our prayer? You're messing this up. We are trying our hardest to get him out. Quit telling us he's at the door. But Peter kept on knocking. Rhoda! Rhoda! Open the door! Pounding on the door. Now, I'm maybe creating a little bit of commotion there. Kept on knocking. When they opened the door and saw him, they were astonished. Astonished. Peter motioned with his hand for them to be quiet and described how the Lord had brought him out of prison. Tell James and the other brothers and sisters about this, he said. And then he left for another place because he's kind of hot merchandise right now. They're looking for him soon. They will be. He's a fugitive. But they were astonished. Got to park on that for just a little bit. Can I give you the definition of astonished? I just went to dictionary.com, copied what it said. This is what it said. Filled with sudden and overpowering surprise and wonder. Amazed. They were amazed that Peter was out of prison. Oh, it finishes up in verses 18 and 19. Not the best way to end the story, but in the morning, there was no small commotion among the soldiers as to what had become of Peter. After Herod had a thorough search made for him and did not find him, he cross-examined the guards and ordered that they be executed. Gives you a little bit of the heart of Herod and a little bit of seriousness to what he was planning to do to Peter. Got a couple of questions for the church that was meeting to pray. What were they praying for? What's the answer? That Peter would be released from prison, that he would be spared, that Herod would not get his way. What were they expecting God to do? Apparently not much of anything. Apparently not much. Why were they astonished? Surprised that God came through? Surprised that God listened and did what they asked him to do? When was the last time you were astonished by God? What were the circumstances? Why was it so astonishing that God did that? Do you think God likes or dislikes astonishing his children? Have you ever had the thrill of astonishing your own children? I don't know, maybe at Christmas, at a birthday, or at something you did where you just see the delight all over them? What makes you think God would enjoy you less than you enjoy your kids? We just do. This whole story reminds me of, again, a story a long time ago. I heard about a church in a small town in the Midwest that the bar opened up down the street, and the church gathered together and they started to pray against the bar, that it would fail, that it would go out of business, that they would not have enough people frequenting the bar. And so they prayed fervently for the shutting down of the bar. Then one night a storm came through and a bolt of lightning hit the bar and burned the bar to the ground. And the bar owner heard that the church had met and prayed for the bar's demise, so he decided to sue the church. He sued the church and went before the judge, and the church is going, hey, we had nothing to do with that. That is not on us. And the judge is listening and trying to make, so his conclusion was, I have a bar owner who believes in God and in the power of prayer, and a church that believes its prayers had nothing to do with something we all acknowledge is an act of God. Wow. Interesting dilemma. So do you or do you not believe that prayer works? What happens when the church prays? Much? Not much? I want to show you a picture that, again, I'm on the Gilbert campus. On your campus, you have one of these as well. This is kind of a project of love on behalf of our church. All campuses are doing this, and again, I'm sorry, online, obviously this is a different dynamic for you. I don't know if you know this, but there are just under 1,600 bulbs. This is just from the lobby. This is just a picture of what's on the other side of the doors on this campus. On your campus, you have one. Mesa's is just about the same size. Queen Creek's a little bit smaller, and then we have two smaller campuses. This was absolutely empty when we started the series. What we've asked you to do all along is, would you put your name on a bulb, and would you put the name of somebody who desperately needs Jesus on the other side of the bulb, and then would you just put that in there, and then would we just ask that we could commit together, that we would be praying, that these are your friends, these are the people that you care about, these are the people that you hope one day they come to find Jesus. So across all of our campuses, there's just under 5,500 lights that people have put in there. 5,500 people that we as a church directly know need Jesus desperately. These are not hypothetical names. These are not rhetorical ideas that someday someone out there, would discover Jesus. How many of us are praying because we really believe that God hears our prayers and that he will do something on behalf of these people? Or how many of us just said, this is what we're doing, so we're just doing it, but I don't know. I still can't see it happening, man. It'd be crazy. God actually did something in their life. I just want to emphasize what I know in your heart, You can't win these people to Jesus. You can't convert them. You can't woo them to God. God has to do that. But God uses people like you and like me to bring people to him. People who have the courage to say, God, here I am, use me. Let me stand in for you, God. I'll go and do that on your behalf. Just give me the words, God. Just give me the words. So here's what we're going to do right now is we're going to pause the service because apparently great things happen when the church prays, if you believe the Bible. So I'm going to walk over there, and I want to just ask you to focus on two things, on the bulbs and the fact that those are, and just on this campus, those are 1,600 lives. But again, across all campuses, it's 5,500 lives. I'm just going to go stand over there, and I'm going to ask you to fervently pray. With confidence, pray that God does something in their lives. Many of them have already accepted. How about the one you put up? Have you been faithful to be a witness of what God can do in a life? So we're going to put the lights down. I'm going to go over there 2 minutes-ish. I'm going to just ask you to focus. Maybe you can see your bulb. I don't know. Maybe you know exactly which bulb you put in. But when the church prays, powerful things happen. So let's pray.